Looking at these two, the Pro and the Platinum, just from a front view like this, it's very hard to say why the Platinum actually cost over $50,000 more. Of course, everything happens under the skin, and that's what we're going to talk about. The differences in the design between these two, from the Pro, the base model Pro of the F-150 Lightning, and the Platinum. But before we do that, I want to show you something really interesting here. Based on talking about these trim levels. We have the Pro, XLT, Lariat, and the Platinum here, and this is on the Ford website. So looking at the pricing here, this is what makes this a little confusing for me, because we have the XLT here with the standard range battery, which is 230 battery miles, not a battery, 426 horsepower, so it's not a bad base model. But looking at if we want the extended range battery, it pops up from 52 to 72 right here, so that's $20,000 extra for the long 300-mile battery pack and 563 horsepower. But looking at the Lariat here, so now if we want to have the base Lariat with the base range and the base engine, it costs $67,474. And then if we want the additional range and the upgraded package here, the power package, it goes up by $10,000 instead of $20,000 in the XLT. So if I was in the market for the F-150 Lightning, and Rosie's looking like she's pissed off at the moment, hopefully she's not gonna bite me or anything like that. Rosie, are you chill? Are you relaxed? So looking at these two trim levels right here, it's only $5,000 difference, and that kind of makes the XLT with the long range, I don't want to say obsolete, but in my opinion, I would definitely go with the Lariat with the extended range, because it's only $5,000 difference, since the extended range battery pack in the XLT is $20,000 extra, and in the Lariat here, it seems like it's only $10,000 extra, and then they become very, very close to each other. So I would definitely go with the Lariat with a long range and the 563 horsepower, 300-mile range if I was buying this car. But now let's jump into Photoshop here. Let me show you the differences in design. I gotta have to move you now, Rosie, okay? Just because you're a little bit in the way. Sorry about that. You can go and watch the birds in the windows up here. There we go. So let's jump into Photoshop and let's have a look at these designs here. I really like the Ford F-150 Lightning and the base model as well. The problem with the base, if we were to buy a base, you can't from what I understand, you can't buy the base, the Pro, as a private person. Like, you need to have a company. It's only available for commercial fleets, which is kind of sad in my opinion, because it looks so good and it still has the 230-mile range with 426 horsepower as a base model. I think that for 40 grand, something like that, it would be a great truck for people who just want a base F-150 Lightning without all the luxuries that you get in the other trim levels. So looking at the differences here in the design and what really makes out the $50,000 difference in design between the Pro up here and the Platinum down here, not a lot really. If we zoom in, I think it's cool that you can see this has to be the battery pack sitting down here at the bottom, because the body actually starts pretty high up from the ground, so it would have a impressive ground clearance if it wasn't for this big battery pack that sits under there. You can barely see it here because we have this step on the side of the Platinum. Of course, this comes fully loaded. There are a couple of options you can get, like a lock box on the bed or something like that. What I love about the Pro is that they didn't cheap out on the headlights. Look at this headlight. It's a proper modern looking headlights, no halogen lights there, and this part of the headlight seems to be the exact part that we have on the Platinum, so you still get all the lighting benefits of a modern headlights. Usually companies likes to cheap out on that specific detail when it comes to the base model, comparing it to higher levels, but not Ford, so that's really cool. However, as you can see, the big thing here in the front end is that we don't have this super cool light bar that we have in the Platinum version and the XLT and the Lariat as well. They all come standard with this light bar. So I guess unless you're buying the Pro for your fleet every other civilized, I mean civilian F-150, they will all have this light bar. In addition to that, we also have a bit more of a rugged front bumper, as you can see, so more rubberized, which makes sense if you're gonna use this as a company truck. You really want to have, so you don't really care about paint dings and stuff like that. You want to have a more rugged and functional front end, and I think these panels not being painted really suits that type of activity with the truck. You can see that on the Platinum down here, it is actually body painted at the bottom all the way down here. So you got to be a little bit more careful with the paint if you want to go off-road or something like that with the Platinum when you have those painted panels lower down on the front end of the truck. We also have painted side mirrors right here, as you can see, on the Platinum compared to the Pro, and this is an option for the XLT as well, I believe, and also indicators are integrated in the side mirrors right here, and they're not integrated on the Pro. So looking at it from a side view real quick before we jump into the rear as well, what I love about the Ford F-150 and this design in general is that they really kept a very traditional truck shape with the 3 boxes that we've talked about here on the channel. We have box number 1, 2, and 3, creating this traditional truck layout and package when you look at it from a side. This looks like an internal combustion truck. Compare this to the Hummer EV, which went a little crazy with their styling, and so did the Silverado EV as well. They look really cool, really futuristic, but I think this will actually appeal to a different type of customer that really don't necessarily care about all the gizmos that comes with new fun designs, and really just want to have a traditional normal truck but being electric. And I think that's where the Ford F-150 is really going to shine and attract those customers who want to have more of a smooth transition into the electric era of truck. The wheels on the Pro are 18-inch stock standard, and here on the Platinum you have this gorgeous 22-inch wheels. What I love about the greenhouse of the F-150, and this is a feature I've talked about here before, that's been with the Ford F-150 for a very, very long time, and that is, if we look at the greenhouse and the outline of this greenhouse, you have this dip right here, and I've talked about this, that this gives it the driver a better visibility looking forward, because you have this cut, a low cut in the greenhouse, which allows you to look closer and see what's closer to the front axle and front wheels when you have that cutout in the door that goes this low. Let's have a look at the rear view and then quickly the interior between these two as well. The same thing here goes as in the front view. Pretty much the same philosophy applies to the differences between them. Pro up here, Platinum down here. We don't have the beautiful light bar in the Pro, which I kind of understand, because I can't imagine putting a light bar in the moving part of the actual tailgate. Is probably not a cheap thing to produce. You can see that it cuts right in and continues across the entire rear end into this moving part, which creates a lot more complexity in the internals of the tailgate to make that actually be a functional part. Same thing here, we have the bumper being more rugged on the Pro compared to the Platinum that has these body panels painted, but it still looks like a traditional truck bumper. And usually what companies do up until now, I would say, with the Ford F-150 as well, is that they actually source these bumpers from a third-party manufacturer that provides all the bumpers to all the E350 vans and all the trucks that you see out. The bumpers usually is not designed by the company, they're designed by a different company that then supplies the automotive companies with the bumpers. You can see that we have a different shape in the rear end of the tailgate on the compared to the Pro and the Platinum here as well, and I think that has to do with the internal. So we have more of a straight lines right here, but here we have this beautiful chamfer in the tailgate, which I really like. I'm not sure if that is to house all the electronics and stuff like that is required to make this light bar work, but I do prefer this rear end over the Pro. The Pro looks very simple, I like that as well, but this has a little more styling to it, and I'm always a fan of chamfers that change their width like we have right here. It's a pretty narrow chamfer up top, as you can see, this width up here, and then it gets really big at the bottom down here, and it creates a more dynamic feeling in the rear end. I'm also a huge fan of the absolutely massive LED lights right here. I really like how they designed this Ford F-150. Kind of took the current generation and really modernized it, make it look futuristic with these thick LEDs that light up the entire section right here, in addition to the light bar, of course, in the rear end. The changes that we see here, we have just one single window right here. In the upper trim levels, you have this window, which we're used to seeing on other Ford F-150s as well. It kind of slides to the side, and you can have this piece open if you want to have some fresh air in your cabin. And also the door handles are obviously body color matched on the upper trim levels as well. Now, looking at the interior, this is really interesting as well, in my opinion, because it doesn't really look like a big difference between the two. It doesn't look like $50,000 difference between these two. You still have a fully digital gauge cluster, a full digital touchscreen right here. It's a little bigger on the upper trim levels, but other than that, I can't really see any major differences. Yes, we have some other sound systems right here that's missing in the A-pillar on the Pro, but the same displays and the same kind of beautiful housing of this display. So I'm glad that they didn't put, as you know, a big iPad on top of this and combine this screen with this screen in one single static, clinical, boring iPad. Instead, they created a nice cozy little house for the gauge cluster and a separate screen for the center infotainment system. This obviously comes straight from the Mach-E. As you can see, it's the same kind of design. I kind of think that this actually looks a little more premium with this bar going right here in silver or aluminum than this does right here. But I know that the materials obviously in the Platinum are a lot more upscale than you would get in the Pro. Really cool design features on the new F-150 Lightning. I'm just a little confused about this pricing from Ford. I thought that the extended range and the upgraded power would be $10,000 on every single trim. That would make a little more sense, because as I said, now if you equip your XLT with the extended range, you get so close to the extended range price of the Lariat, and that's a little confusing to me. Which trim level would you choose? Let me know in the comments below. Since you can't buy the Pro, you only have 3 trim levels to choose from, unless you're a business owner, of course. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.